Welcome to the Matcha Minutes, where we talk about what's going on in our community. Today, our guest is Tim Vandall, second timer.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming to the show and spending some time with us talking about what's going on in the city of Lansing. For those of you who don't know, and I don't know who that could possibly be these days, Tim Vandall is the city administrator for the city of Lansing. You've been there for how long now?
11 years.
Wow.
11 years.
You just moved houses.
Yeah, we bought a different house in Lansing. So yeah, it's been kind of an adventure moving to a different neighborhood, a different house. But yeah, it's been a good move.
What are some of the changes that we've seen in the last year since you've been on?
So I think last year, housing and RHID were kind of the hot topics when we met. Since that, one of those housing projects was declined at the county level. The county issued their veto authority and vetoed two of those projects. It completely outright killed one of the projects that would have been 400 new homes, kind of on the southern edge of Lansing, along McIntyre. The second one they vetoed was for a 21-unit townhome complex. So we had to go back to the drawing board on that one. They were able to revise the incentives that we were looking at doing to kind of make that project pencil out. So instead of 21 townhomes, it's now 14 townhomes. And that one is looking to get started in the next, I think, couple weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's 14 townhomes kind of by Econo Lodge.
Okay.
They'd look almost identical to the ones that were built just a few years ago. And then the third project that the county approved through the RHID program, they approved it 3-2. That one got kicked off last year. You can see all the infrastructure in the new subdivision. We think they're going to get started on a model home and a handful of new homes fairly soon.
Oh, wow.
But that one is on North DeSoto, just stone's throw from Dillon's. So you can kind of see the layout of all of the homes, where the homes will be, how they're accessed and everything. And again, that was a project that was made possible by that housing reinvestment housing incentive district program through the state of Kansas. So we're excited to see that, excited to get some new houses in Lansing. So that's kind of been the big thing that's been going on.
And how many homes was that one?
So that one will be 190 single-family homes. The one thing that we're telling people about, because I think when we had done surveys, the big thing about housing in Lansing was affordability. It was a challenge for people to get into those homes unless they were making just an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
So housing affordability was kind of a hot topic a couple of years ago. So not only did we do that RHID program, we were also able to update our rules to allow for new homes in smaller lots, in tighter lots. So a lot of the homes that are going to be built, they're the same square footage as your house, my house, a lot of the houses in Lansing and Leavenworth. But they're more narrow, but they're deeper.
Okay.
So it's same square footage, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Some have 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Oh, wow.
They're all 2-car garages. But again, they're narrower and a little bit deeper. And there's some models that have 2 stories as well. So it'll be a great subdivision when it's done. It's kind of wild to think about. I'll use air quotes, starter homes in the low 300s. But if you look around the metro, that's about as good as it can get for, brand new homes in a nice city. So we're excited for them to get going. The builder on that is Hakes Brothers. They've built some beautiful homes in Leavenworth. They've built homes in Baser. So we're excited to have them come to Lansing and put their product out there.
What about commercial development in Lansing? How is that going? Is there anything you can talk about? Because if you can't talk about it, we definitely understand.
No, it's been a little bit slower the last few years than we would have liked. So is residential development, to be honest with you. But commercial development, we are hoping to see a new shopping center go up in the town center area. Hopefully get started in the next 2 or 3 months. So that would be, I want to say 5 or 6 different tenants in the main building, and then a couple of pad sites as well. So we're looking forward to that. We've been having a lot of discussions with the developer about that. And keep in mind, for a project of that scale, this person is putting up $20-30 million
Wow.
to build this new shopping center. So it'd be a big project for Lansing. Just based on the fact that we've had so much trouble attracting commercial development. I tell people I won't sleep until I see those bulldozers out there. You know what I mean? Like I want to see some dirt being moved, and hopefully that'll take place in the next 2 or 3 months. But yeah, it would be nice to see a nice shopping center in Lansing, and I think that'll generate some sales tax for us. It'll be we've had that area for so long. It's just been, everyone jokes around about it being a sledding hill.
Mhm.
It's been vacant for so long. So it'll be nice to have something that's generating tax revenue for the city and long term for the school district and county as well.
What about what's the latest with KCK out there?
We really haven't heard a lot about that. We've tried to reach out to them. I think they're going through some leadership transitions. So I'm not sure if they have a permanent president of KCC yet. So we really haven't heard a lot about that. We'll see what happens. We've tried to reach out, but like I said, I think they're on their 3rd or 4th different acting president or interim president in the last 6 months. So, and then I think on top of that, I think they're trying to get that new downtown facility opened in downtown KCK. So, we don't have a lot of information on that right now. We reach out occasionally and try to check in, but we really haven't heard a lot from them.
Going back to your shopping center, is there anything you can tease out to our viewers that might be coming if they live in Lansing, or is that all top secret?
I guess just in general, I'd say, it's the businesses that person has LOIs with. It's nothing that's in Leavenworth, and I think most of them aren't in the Legends either. So
really,
yeah. So I mean, they're businesses that we are hoping kind of fills a niche in the Lansing Leavenworth area. But again, also, it'd be nice if we were able to get some Wyandotte County shoppers to come down here to go to a store to purchase some things. So nothing that's within a 15, 20, 25-minute radius of Lansing right now. But again, we're excited about it. We think it's going to fill a niche in the area. But like I said, I won't sleep until I see those bulldozers there, Joe.
What about the growth is mostly towards the south right now? How far can you guys grow, and what's the intent there?
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, we really haven't grown yet. I think there were a lot of times, especially last year, when people would say things about Lansing's growth, and we would kind of say, hey guys, we're not growing. I think people would see Tongi and Baser and just kind of assume it was happening in Lansing too, and it wasn't. I want to say last year we had like 3 new houses built. So we're really not growing at the moment. But I mean, to your question, we've had a lot of people expressing interest in the southern part of Lansing. And it's kind of fascinating. It's kind of a long time coming in the sense that property was all of those properties were annexed, probably 15 or 20 years ago. 8 or 9 years ago, Leavenworth County, not the city, Leavenworth County updated McIntyre Road through that 1-cent sales tax. So the county updated the road, the city put in a sewer line. So I mean, that area, I think a lot of people would look at that as an area for future growth in Lansing. There are areas that are zoned for light industrial out there, not heavy, but light industrial. I think there are some areas that are zoned for residential, and also a couple of areas that are zoned for commercial. So we've had a little bit more interest the last 12 to 18 months than we did before. And quite frankly, too, I think when people look at, where the interstate is, where the Legends are, where Johnson County is, it kind of makes sense that Lansing would grow to the south. I think, 10 or 15 years ago, I think a lot of people thought Lansing would grow to the west.
Yeah.
I think that's why Bernard Park was put where it was. I think that's why Lansing High School was put where it was. I think a lot of people thought Lansing would grow westward. And you look now and, not only have we not grown to the west, we haven't even had people reach out to us with ideas, or you know what I mean? Like there really haven't even been people kicking tires on development to the west of town. So yeah, most of our inquiries, a lot of them are that southern area right along K-7. K-7 is Lansing's, it's our biggest blessing, but our biggest curse at times.
Yeah.
An area that has good access to K5 and eventually 435. And along K7, you have 25,000 vehicles per day. So that area on southern K7 in Lansing, that's an area that we expect to see growth on in the next 5-10 years.
With the stadium coming to Wyandotte County, how do you see that impacting Lansing?
So we spoke about this at a few council meetings, maybe a few months ago, before the World Cup, because I think at the time we thought, maybe the World Cup will be a good indicator of how it might be when the Chiefs come down the road. And quite frankly, since the World Cup, it didn't generate the number of hotel rooms that anyone was expecting. So we were hoping the World Cup would kind of be a good indicator for us, but it hasn't. In our discussions with our chief of police and fire chief, what they equated it to is possibly like race weekend when NASCAR has their races in KCK.
Do you see a huge increase in those
We
weekends?
do. We see more people at our hotels and things like that. But, generally, it's not like it's this huge traffic backup. It's not, it doesn't generate a lot of crime in Lansing or anything like that. So I think we might see, things get a little bit busier those weekends of 8 or 9 times a year when the Chiefs have a home game. So I think you'd see our hotels be a little bit busier, our restaurants be a little bit busier, maybe slightly more traffic. But I mean, beyond that too, I want to say Lansing has maybe 150 hotel rooms between our 3 hotels, like either 150 or 160 hotel rooms. So even if all of those hotels are completely full with 2 or 3 people, that might be 150 more people on our roads. So it wouldn't be creating traffic jams in Lansing that we're expecting right now. I suppose the hotels in Leavenworth might be getting some traction if the Chiefs go there too. So yeah, there might be a few hundred more cars on the road, 8, 9, 10 weekends a year. But nothing that we are expecting that will drastically change anything. If anything, I think we're hoping to see a lot more sales tax, a lot more transient guest tax. So we're hoping there is a benefit of that.
Do you see anybody that works out there possibly coming to live in Lansing?
I hope so. I think, I hope some of those folks will look at the housing that's going in Lansing right now and think, hey, here's a house I can afford in a nice community that's 12 minutes away from Arrowhead, even beyond people moving here or to Leavenworth or wherever. I think there is also this hope that it maybe puts us on the map a little bit more. There are so many times when I will be at meetings in the metro area and I will say I'm the city administrator of Lansing and people have no idea where it is. They look at me almost like Lansing is 2 hours outside of the city, when in reality, we're 25 minutes from downtown. We're 15 minutes from the Legends. We are, 20 minutes from the airport. So we have this amazing location right now that it seems like 90% of the metro doesn't know about. And so I hope that with the Chiefs going in where they're going, I hope the rest of the metro kind of takes notice. And I hope that kind of sparks a little bit more growth in the Lansing-Leavenworth area.
And I've heard the term, and I'm not sure how you feel about it, but the term that Lansing is somewhat of a bedroom community. Do you agree with that?
there might be a little bit of validity to that. I think when you look at the data of like our daytime population, our regular census population is a little bit over 11,000 people, but our daytime population, I want to say, is only like 6,000 or 7,000 people. So certainly a lot more people depart Lansing to go work at their jobs than people who come into town. And I think there's a large segment of our population that they want to come home, they want to turn on their lights, flush their toilets, send their kids to a good school, have a safe neighborhood, have nice parks. But beyond that, they might work elsewhere, do their shopping elsewhere, whatever. So there is a segment of our population that is like that. With all of the interest in the southern part of town, with this shopping center interest, I think there is this hope that we're not going to be a bedroom community. We want to generate more sales taxes, more property taxes, and things like that. So I think there is this hope that we can maybe shed that belief from some people that we're just a bedroom community. But I can understand why people would think that. I understand that perspective.
You guys just went through a big process of really kind of define what your citizens want Lansing to be. Mm-hmm. How did that go, and what came out of that?
Are you talking about our comprehensive plan? So that is still in the works, okay. But we've had a lot of great feedback from our residents so far. I think our consultant was saying we've had more community feedback for our comprehensive plan than a lot of communities have had for theirs. So that's been encouraging, and kudos to Josh Gensler and Diana Dodd for trying to get the word out to get people to submit feedback on that. One of the meetings that I was in maybe a month or so ago, it was really quite a fascinating meeting because there was the committee is composed of 15 or 16 people. And it's people from the community, but we also have bankers. We also have developers on this community committee as well. And some of the discussions were fascinating in the sense that, we would have citizens say, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I want this. And I get that. I think the consultant just wants people to, give their feedback, which is great. But as we were kind of flushing out more details on that, the developers and the bankers and a few people from the city were saying, how are we going to pay for these types of amenities? Everybody wants us to have the amenities of Olathe, Lenexa, Overland Park, but the question is, how do we get there? And if someone is saying, well, the city doesn't have to pay for it, the developer will, then we had the developers and the bankers kind of chiming in and saying, well, hey, if you put these types of regulations and red tape on developers, people aren't going to build here, or the product is going to be so expensive nobody will be able to buy it. Yeah. So it really was a fascinating discussion. Hearing from developers, hearing from bankers, maybe hearing about the types of housing that Lansing can attract, like we had talked about, single family, reasonably priced, attainable homes, or nice townhomes, things like that. We've really had good feedback through that process. Another thing that was really fascinating about that whole comp plan survey, we had so many people put in that they want more trails and sidewalks and things like that. And it was kind of fascinating. One of the areas that we heard the most feedback about was from 4-H Road to Lansing High School. And right now, that's just a big vacant 140-acre parcel. I think it's on the market for, $4 million. Yeah. But anyway, we would get a lot of feedback about that throughout these surveys and people inputting feedback. And coincidentally, we applied for a grant through the Kansas Department of Transportation to help offset the costs for the city to build a trail from 4-H Road to Lansing High School. Now, one of the things that I think is fascinating that maybe regular citizens don't think about sometimes I think if you would have asked me 20 years ago, how much would it cost to build a trail from, just say 1.4 miles or something like that, I would have said, I don't know, maybe $1 million or whatever. And, the preliminary engineering work that we have had done from engineers who do this kind of thing all the time, they're saying, hey, this is going to be $3.1 million.
Oh my gosh.
And that's one of those things, we talked about not having a lot of new businesses, having only 3 new homes built last year. How do we pay for a $3.1 million grant to connect 4H Road to Lansing High School? So we applied for a grant from the State Department of Transportation. We partnered with Lansing High School. They gave us some great data and letters of support. State Senator Jeff Klemp wrote us a great letter of support as well. So that was fantastic. We appreciate him doing that. I think we'll find out whether or not we got that grant later this fall. But yeah, trails and walkability is one of those things that's so important to our citizens. But I think a lot of times it's more expensive than people realize.
Well, that's for sure. And I don't think people realize, $1 million doesn't go that far when you're putting streets and roads and sidewalks together. I mean, that stuff is very expensive. And I can say, as a fairly still new city commissioner, I had no idea.
Yeah.
You would think that would go a lot further than it does, and it just doesn't go very far.
I know for us, so I mean, we're in our budget process. I think Leavenworth is in their budget process. But I mean, we've been trying to consistently, gradually increase the money we spend on drainage projects, repaving roads, redoing curbs, things like that. However, even if we increase that by 3% every year, 4% every year, we're not keeping up at all with the rate of inflation for construction, asphalt, concrete, anything like that. So it's been a challenge to try to keep our infrastructure in good shape, because again, we're trying to be proactive, trying to put more money for infrastructure and things like that. But, when the cost of asphalt is going up 10, 15, 20%, the $1 million that we're putting away for infrastructure doesn't go as far as it did 4, 5, 6 years ago.
That's right. I think the city of Leavenworth is looking at finding a grant writer. I think they're spending a lot of time trying to find money for matching grants.
Yeah.
How does Lansing handle those two factors itself? Do you guys have a budget for that? And how do you handle grant writing? Because I've heard you guys do get quite a few grants.
We've gotten a few, but so we don't have a grant writer. I had heard Leavenworth was thinking about doing that. I think that's a fabulous idea if it's a way for a community like Leavenworth or Lansing to stretch their tax dollars even further. Perhaps that's a great investment. So I think that's a good idea. We don't have that budgeted in our budget right now. We don't have a grant writer right now. A few of the grants that we've received recently, the city was able to get a $1.3 million grant for that sewer line to McIntyre that we were talking about. That was a very competitive program through the Department of Commerce. So we were thrilled to get $1.3 million. Tom Cole with Leavenworth County partnered with us on that. Now, Mr. Cole doesn't work for the county anymore, but he was a good partner in helping us get that grant assembled and created and submitted to the Department of Commerce. So that was a grant success story for Lansing. Another grant success story that we had in the last few years was the intersection of K-7 and Eisenhower, where Quick Trip is. I don't think people understand how complicated that intersection is. Oh man, yes. Well, and a couple things too. I think people who have been here for a long time remember what that intersection looked like before Quick Trip got here. And it was kind of a mess. And we were able to apply for a grant. And then even beyond the grant we received, which was for, I think, $1.2 million. But even beyond that, our match, we partnered with the city of Leavenworth because a portion of that intersection is in Leavenworth, the luxury and imports quadrant. So
I just want to, it's for people who don't understand how complex that is.
Yeah.
I think most of us think that north of Eisenhower's Leavenworth,
Yeah.
south of Eisenhower's Lansing, and you don't get into the county until you're way down Highway 5. But that's not necessarily true.
That's true. Yeah, that's the boundaries between Lansing and Leavenworth are kind of zigzag a little bit here and there. But
So Quick Trip is actually in Lansing.
Quick Trip, Club Car Wash, and Aldi are in Lansing. Yes.
And you cross the road, and Luxury Imports is in Leavenworth.
Correct. Yep.
But as you start to go across the intersection, part of that's actually in the county too, right?
I'd have to double check on that. I normally focus on the Lansing areas and the Leavenworth areas, but I'm not positive about how much of that is in the county. But you're right. The boundaries there are kind of funky sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So like Hallmark is in Leavenworth as well. But anyway, we were fortunate to get that grant. Leavenworth was a great partner in that process as well. So I want to say our grant was 75% of our construction costs. And of the 25% that we were responsible for, Leavenworth chipped in a little bit of money on that too. So Leavenworth has been a great partner on a lot of those projects, and we appreciate the synergy that both of our cities have, because I think we all see that, when Leavenworth does well, Lansing does well, and when Lansing does well, Leavenworth does well. So we appreciate that, but those have been a couple of success stories that we've had in the last 5 years, getting a couple of pretty decent sized grants.
And I will say this, and it's probably a little bit volatile, but as we look at Leavenworth County, Leavenworth and Lansing, our challenges are unique to the rest of the county. Tonganoxie's not worried about either of us. Baser's really not worried about either of us. And Easton's doing its own thing. So when it really comes to the growth of our area, I mean, we're the only two partners that we can rely on. And I think that relationship is very important. I think sometimes that gets lost in translation.
Yeah, it was disappointing. We had talked about the RHID program and discussions with the county from last year. And, without rehashing arguments and disagreements, I just think in general, there is a segment of Leavenworth County who sees, Tonganoxie's growing, Baser's growing, Lansing and Leavenworth should be growing too. Why do we have to do anything for them? I think there was a segment of the county that believed that, or still believes that perhaps. And unfortunately, we are at a disadvantage in terms of, we're further away from I-70, we're further away from the Legends, further away from, all of the 435, everything. So, I mean, it's not that Lansing or Leavenworth are doing anything wrong. It's more that our location is more of a challenge for growth. I think you can have an amazing city manager, an amazing city council, an amazing staff. You can do everything right. But if you don't have as good of a location as other places, development kind of follows good locations. Listen to any realtor, what they tell you, location. And the development game is kind of like that as well. So, it was discouraging to hear elected officials not from Lansing, from other parts of the county, with that attitude. And I think people like that really, it was discouraging to hear some of those arguments. But along those lines, since we do have a more challenging location than places further south of us, I mean, I think that's why we have to try different things to spark that growth. That's why Lansing, we're doing a CID for a potential hotel development in town center. Mm-hmm. We looked at, when the RHID was vetoed by the county, we instead did industrial revenue bonds in order to keep that project moving forward. So, I mean, I think that's why Lansing and Leavenworth kind of have to try different things, just because our location isn't quite as good as some of our neighbors to the south.
Technology is changing quickly. Is there ways that you see AI or automation helping the city become more efficient without losing the human touch?
That's a good question. It's funny. I think when people look at me, they think because I'm young-ish, I'm this technology wizard or something. So I got to tell you, I really don't deal with AI a ton in my daily workings or whatever. I know we have some department heads who use AI a little bit to proofread things or to maybe update wording on things. So I know we have staff who utilize AI a lot. I know we were working on an AI policy to ensure that people know, hey, if this department is using AI, we need to be sure that everyone internally knows, hey, this was an AI generated document. The other thing that I know is fascinating too, I think there's some people out there who think, oh, I can just do XYZ on AI and it will be fine. But I think a lot of the data that AI uses, that AI harvests, is from previously written papers or whatever. So once in a while, you will see these stories about an AI paper with something completely bizarre inside of it. You know what I mean? So 100%, if we have a staff member, a department head, whoever utilizing AI, we have to be cognizant of the fact that that doesn't mean it's perfect. We still need to verify the sources. We still need to proofread everything. We still have to make sure the context is correct. So I think it will make our staff more efficient long term. But I think it's one of those things I think like I said, we have to be cognizant of. We can't just say, hey, I'm doing this report, plug it into AI and hand it off. Like we need to be aware of the positives of it, but also the negatives.
There's a lot, now I'm putting on my tech hat, of analysis that can be done quickly when used appropriately. And so comparisons, contrasting, historical, putting it all together and spitting something out that's useful. There is some possibility there, and it's important to note that could make people's lives easier. I'm going to switch because I asked you if we could talk about this, and you said everything was on the table. What is Lansing? Because we've seen Leavenworth County's appetite for data centers to be questionable. What is Lansing's appetite for a data center?
Well,
I say that because we talked about AI.
I will give you this caveat of keep in mind I have 9 bosses, and you might get 9 different answers if you talk to my bosses.
From a practical perspective.
A couple things to keep in mind, I guess, on that. Josh Gensler, our Community and Economic Development Director, and I, we've been talking about that, the prospect of that. And I know as we were looking at our rules, I think one of the things that we had noted is based on our current Unified Development Ordinance, I think it really only fits in an I-2 heavy industrial district. And not only that, it would require a conditional use permit on top of that. So there would be a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of hurdles to jump through. It would certainly be a challenge if some type of data center wanted to come to Lansing. The one thing that I do want to kind of say though, and it's tough because I feel like so many people in our region have been focusing so heavily on the Tonganoxie one. And I'm not an expert in that, but it's my understanding that one is, hundreds of acres, quite large.
Yes, it's a hyperscale, 100-acre possibility. And there are smaller ones for much smaller footprints.
See, and that's what I was going to say. I think I don't want to paint with a broad brush because I think maybe there are instances where smaller data centers could make sense in various communities. Again, Lansing doesn't have an industrial park. We only have 2 parcels that are zoned I-2, and they're both pretty small parcels. But I think, a reasonably priced or a reasonably sized data center, maybe that makes sense in some places. One of the things that I have found kind of fascinating too, just watching the discussions at the county level and some other cities as well, people will bring up, water. People will bring up electricity. People will bring up a lot of these things. And, maybe those things are valid, but I know most cities kind of look at the land use side of it. So like Lansing doesn't own a water utility. If you want to talk about water capacity and everything like that, that's not my office. That's not Josh's office. That's the Landell board. That's the Landell employees. If you want to talk about electricity usage and if it's going to cause brownouts, blackouts, whatever, that's not me. That's not Josh. That's Evergy. And, it's one of those things. It's such a complex topic that I think, when I watch those county meetings, I will hear all of these people kind of saying things to the county commissioners that are quite frankly, that's Evergy's purview, So I do think people need to take a deep breath and maybe realize there might be ways to responsibly and reasonably do various types of economic development. I think there's certain areas where something like that could fit. Like I said, Lansing, we don't have an industrial park. We only have 2 small parcels zoned I-2. So there would be a lot of hoops to jump through if someone wanted to do it in Lansing. Not impossible, but there would be hoops to jump through. But I think, there's ways to reasonably and responsibly do economic development and growth.
We've talked about different types of businesses. Is there an industry or a business you'd like to see come to Lansing?
Kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think we'd like to see a little bit more commercial growth in town. We feel like long-term that'd create more property taxes to offset the tax burden on our residents. We think it'd generate sales taxes. We think it'd generate some jobs. And not only that, we think it would fill in some vacant parcels that have been in town for quite a while. So it would be nice to see a little bit more commercial in our community. There are areas in town that are zoned for light industrial. Whether that's a warehouse or something like that. I think that could be a positive thing as well. It could create some jobs and some new tax revenue as well. But I think most of what I hear is commercial, restaurants, shopping opportunities and things like that. And like I said, quite frankly, we could use that sales tax coming in. I know years ago, this was maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I was talking to Paul Kramer, and I think we were talking about the differences between Lansing's budget and Leavenworth's budget. And, it was fascinating at that time because you'd look at Leavenworth's budget and it was so, reliant on sales taxes because Leavenworth has Walmart, Dillon's, at the time, Zech Ford, Martin's, Chevrolet, all of these things that were just generating a real significant amount of sales tax. And then you look at Lansing, and we are so much more reliant on property tax because we don't have those big sales tax generating businesses that Leavenworth does. So when you look at Lansing's budget breakdown, we are so much more reliant on property taxes than Leavenworth at least was 5 years ago. And like I said, part of it is just the fact that there's so many more businesses, so many people go shopping in Leavenworth rather than Lansing, just because there's more businesses there. So kind of fascinating. And along those lines, I think that's why our council has tried to do so much to generate more sales tax so we can offset our property tax burden a little bit.
Most of the time, citizens only interact with the government when they're frustrated or upset.
Yeah.
What do you wish they better understood about city government that might make them walk that back a little bit?
I think when people understand that the person they're chewing out on the phone, the person they're writing snarky remarks to online, that, we're people. We live here, we shop here, we go to church here. One of the things why I like local government is the people making all the decisions are the people who reside in that town. And so one of the things that I will say, you gave the example of people kind of being feisty over the phone or whatever. probably 80% of the time when someone is upset about something, when we talk to them in person, face to face, and show compassion, but also try to explain why things are the way they are, usually 80% of the time they're a little bit more understanding. It's I think the other thing where it's tough too, a lot of times if people are frustrated with X, Y, or Z, if you call Evergy, you might be talking to somebody in Topeka. If you call call the governor's office, you're talking to one of her aides over in Topeka. If you call Kansas Gas Service, you're talking to somebody in KCMO or a call center even perhaps. But whether it's Lansing or Leavenworth or wherever, if you want to call and kind of chew on somebody, they're at the city hall, right?
That's right.
They're right down the road. So that's one of the things that, it's challenging. But again, usually when we're able to talk to someone in person and when they say, oh, I've seen you at, the high school football game, I've seen you at church, I've seen you at Aldi, wherever, usually when people realize that, there's a real person who lives in the same town as you on the other end of that phone. Maybe our kids are friends. Maybe, maybe we've bumped into each other somewhere. Usually when they realize that, it kind of de-escalates things a little bit.
One of the things that we've seen recently is the city of Basehor self-impose a 3% property tax cap on themselves.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever see Lansing doing something like that?
We haven't looked at that. One of the things that I will say where I think we are proud, I want to say over a 3-year span, we reduced our mill levy almost 9 mills. So,
and I don't think people realize that.
People don't realize that. And I wish they did because, we scaled back a lot of things in order to give that property tax relief. And, when people have kind of still griped about that and say, well, I don't believe you. We've got the receipts, we've got all the documents from the county that shows, we lowered it almost 1 mill this year, 4 mills this year, and 4 mills the following year. So, I don't think people see that. I don't think people realize that. So I guess going back to the genesis of your question, we haven't looked at doing a self-imposed 3% cap on property taxes. Quite frankly, I'm not sure. We'd probably need additional staff in order to do that. I would imagine. I would imagine there'd be a lot of administrative work behind something like that. And I think we're the only city in the county without an assistant city administrator. So we haven't looked at doing anything like that. However, I think our council is pretty proud of the fact that we've reduced our mill levy quite a bit. Mayor McNeal deserves a ton of credit for that. I know he's been a catalyst for fiscal responsibility. And he's a very analytical guy. And we will have these discussions. And I know he will, kind of pose it to me or staff, is this the best way to do things? What if we did it this way? Just a very analytical man and, a catalyst for fiscal responsibility.
He's currently running for county commissioner.
Yeah.
How's that going to hurt to lose him as the city's mayor?
He's been a fabulous mayor, so that would be tough. We'll see what shakes out. I think the primary election is the first week in August. And I think there's another person who's running against him. I don't think I've come across her at all. But
she was at Lansing Independence Festival.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever met her, but there is an opponent in that primary election. If we lost Mayor McNeal, that would be tough because, like I said, he's a very intelligent man, very analytical. He calls balls and strikes as he sees them, and I think most people who know him would attest to that. Where it is sort of fascinating, though, we really do have a great council, and the current council president is Jake Kowaleski. Jake's a local guy. I think he originally was from Leavenworth. I think he went to Leavenworth High School. Very intelligent man. He's in the utility business. Prior to being on city council, he was on the planning commission. He was on the Landell Water Board. I think he works for a company that does water utilities throughout the world. So Mr. Kowaleski is the current council president. He's a really sharp guy. So if Mayor McNeal were to be elected to county commission, Jake Kowaleski would then become mayor, which would open up a council seat in Ward 2. So yeah, I think it would be a change because anyone who knows both of them knows, Jake and Tony both have very different personalities, but they're both very intelligent men. They both have things that are kind of their wheelhouse. And, we'll see what happens in August. No matter what, I think Lansing is in great hands.
As someone who's worked in city management for many years, what advice would you give someone considering public service as a career?
I think one of the things that I've been trying to tell myself, and I've had council people tell me this as well, is to try to not take things personally. However, one of the things that's tough, and going back to those discussions from last summer, it was tough. We had people throwing out kind of personal attacks against me and against our staff. And that was discouraging to see people who live in our community just say outrageous things. I think their reason for doing that was to try to get a development project they didn't like vetoed, and I guess they succeeded in that. But just try to not take things personally. Try to keep your head down, keep your nose to the grindstone. One of the ways where most of our council was terrific last year, when we would have a lot of these contentious meetings last summer, I had several council people kind of put their arm around me and say, "Hey, you're following the policy that we laid out for you. You're trying to implement the goals that the Lansing City Council laid out for you." And we had most of our city council people being very supportive of staff. Even there might have been one who maybe disagreed and voted against it, but overall, even if they voted against it, they were very supportive of the fact that, council sets the priorities. Council sets the goals. Staff is the one who has to try to implement those goals. And I think they were very supportive of that. So, I think they were kind of trying to tell staff last year, hey, don't take it personally when these people are saying ridiculous things. Keep your head down, keep doing what you're doing, keep doing your best. And that was some good advice I appreciated.
We're going to transition to our second segment now. We're going to learn a little bit more about Tim Vandall and some of your own preferences. And we'll start with this one. Coffee or tea?
So I've actually been trying to drink less coffee lately. I still drink a little bit of it. Probably coffee is my preference,
Okay.
but I've been trying to drink less of it.
Chiefs or Royals?
Royals.
Okay. Favorite Lansing restaurant? This one gets everybody in trouble.
Ichiban.
Oh, okay. Favorite place to relax in Lansing?
Well, I would love to say my house. That's kind of a cop out.
Yeah.
If someone is looking for a peaceful, tranquil place in Lansing to go, Angel Falls Trail is a fabulous place.
Good call. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Okay. Best leadership advice you've received?
I think I had mentioned this the last time I was with you. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Okay.
Life is going to throw you curveballs. Work will throw you curveballs. I think the best leaders are the ones who understand, you're not going to be in your comfort zone the entire time.
One technology you wish every city would adopt.
One technology. That one, I guess I don't know. I haven't thought about that. We had a council person bring up flock cameras to us recently.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And it was fascinating because Lansing does not have flock cameras, but I think Leavenworth does. And that kind of led to an interesting discussion with our police chief and our fire chief internally about the pros and cons of things like that. So, I don't have an answer for that one, I guess, but I know that's a technology that had recently crossed my mind because we had a council member bring that up.
Hidden gem in Lansing.
I'm not sure how hidden it is, but I think our aquatic center is an amazing gem that I think, it's nice to see. I think this year more people are utilizing it than did last year. Not only during general swim, but in the mornings before all the kiddos get there. There's water walking for a lot of people because we have the lazy river, so you can kind of walk in the opposite direction. There's lap swim there. So I feel like our aquatic center is kind of a gem, a brand new gem that I think a lot of our citizens are learning more about.
One word that describes Lansing today.
Steady.
One word that describes it 5 years from now.
Growth.
Last show you binge watched.
My wife and I are watching The Righteous Gemstones right now on HBO.
One thing people would be surprised to learn about you.
We touched on this last year. So I'm a living kidney donor.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's something that I think everyone kind of in my inner circle knows, but I'm not sure how many people outside of my friends, family, and close coworkers know.
You're a real life superhero.
Well, and it's tough because I don't talk about that a ton, and
because you're a very humble guy.
Well, but in a way, maybe I should talk about that more in terms of I want people to realize that there are tens of thousands of people right now on the waiting list for a kidney transplant. And you really only need one kidney in order to function. And I feel fabulous. I was back at work after just a couple of weeks. So, if me talking about that a little bit more can encourage people to do something like that, can encourage people to, maybe at the very least get tested. I feel like that's a positive thing. So that's something not a ton of people know, but I do feel like maybe from that perspective, I should be a little more open about it.
One of the things when I ran for county commissioner, I did post a lot of the different things I did, and people accuse me of bragging about those things. But like you, I think when people see us giving blood or people see us working and volunteering, that maybe it gets them to say, hey, I need to do my part too. And I think there's some value in that.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks for being on again. I know it was kind of short notice. I appreciate you coming back and talking about everything going on. Appreciate your friendship.
Yeah.
You've been a great supporter of mine. And so it's been awesome having you on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to talk about, the great things happening in Lansing, and also to hear a little bit more about our neighbor to the north, Leavenworth. And, like we had talked about, our cities are so intertwined in so many ways. And I just appreciate the partnership between Lansing and Leavenworth. And like you had said, the friendship, the relationship you and I have, I appreciate that. So it's great to be here anytime.